Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for coming and participating and being a part of this beautiful fledgling shul, Breslov, Hempstead. We are here to celebrate Hilula of the holy giant of Nosson of Breslov. Nosson ben Kol Herz ben Chaya Lana. Special thanks to those that came from far. We have some guests from Israel, from Brooklyn, and Lakewood. Thank you. Zia Harris. Tinek. Mosaic. Nicole Katzvestable. Thank you so much. We need your chizuk. It means a lot. We're all on a journey of growth, inspiration, and you being here and us celebrating together helps us all. Whoever wants the hot seat, it's right here. I feel like I'm in the burning bush, but I'm just like half burnt. I want to thank our host, Rabbi Yakov Philipson. And family, the tremendous sacrifice of having this shul, putting up tents, taking apart tents, putting up another tent, plowing a forest, making room for all of us, providing everything that we need, utilities, the most amazing kiddush in this neck of the woods of the entire Rockland County, possibly New York. Really makes it enticing to come to shul. Thank you. Even though I don't know if Rabbi Yaman is here, I just want to give him a blessing. We learned when a person gives tzedakah, he works, he kills himself to make his money, to make a few dollars, and then he takes that money of Elav who noises nafshali, he sacrifices everything for that money, and then he takes that and gives it for charity, for one yid, or in this case, many yidden, or maybe the globe. It has this has ramifications worldwide. So, especially when you give tzedakah to the tzaddik, who's the concept of the koyach hamoshech, it says, Ziru l'cham netzedakah, v'kitzru l'fi chesed, your ROI on it is kefel keflayim, and you get a tremendous return. Hashem should grant them all success. They should be able to continue to be very matzliach so that they can do more tovus for the greater good and help us all out in our journey of Yiddishkeit. I was told not to mention anybody else, but I'm going to deviate. I want to thank Buddy Lichter, the Yassid of the shul, who decided when he's going to build a house, I'm not going to rest until I have a place for you, Hashem. Thank you so much. I also want to thank my brother Mati. What should I tell you? You have saved me 1,000,001 times, and you have been me mechazik. You pushed me to get closer, to get to know the Rebbe Zach, to do what I need to do. Thank you so much. Both of your hard work and all of you should be a tremendous chus. I want to especially thank our esteemed guest speakers who came, both of them from Eretz Yisrael, both from Eretz Yisrael, to participate here, to light our fire, to take us out of the meichin, the katness, the pettiness we all live in, and to remember that we're on a rock flying hundreds of thousands of miles to nowhere for a reason. And to give us meichin, the godless, and expansiveness. Like when you go on an airplane and you look down and you say those people are nuts, arguing with each other. Like, there's a greater world, the cosmos, galaxies, get a life. So that's really what the Rebbe teaches us. The Rebbe wants us to live, get to life. There's a reason why we're here. So I want to welcome both our speakers. First and foremost, Reb Chaim Kramer, who helps me every week learn the Torah of the Rebbe, to try to understand very difficult subjects and concepts. And he sacrificed his entire life to transcribe the Rebbe's Torah, to translate the Rebbe's Torah, and to publicize it, and to make sure that everyone has access to it. And he's always in need of funds, so I'm just putting it out there that everybody's welcome. This is just for you. You didn't ask for it. Everybody's welcome to participate in this tremendous cause. So thank you. We're so happy to have you here. I would also, you're very welcome. We hope to see you back next year. You're reserved. I would also like to welcome a tremendous speaker, Rabbi Yakov Klein. I heard some of your speeches. You have a tremendous chush and gift of making it palatable to audiences that typically wouldn't listen. So both of you together, and especially Rabbi Yakov, both of you are writing Svarim. It's been a tremendous help for the Rebbe Zach and to bring clarity to people. And ultimately, we're here to get closer to Hashem. And both of your efforts are bringing people closer to Hashem. So I want to bless you both to have much success, and Hashem continue to be your Klein and Das, how to continue broadcasting the message. So, first of all, I want to be Mekasher to Reb Nachman and Reb Nosson. That's one of the methods that we do in Breslov. We connect, we bind ourselves with Tzadikim Amitim Shv'dereinu and Tzadikim Amitim Shech Na'ofer, Befrat, Reb Nachman ben Simcha ben Fege, and his Talmud, Reb Nosson ben Avtala Hertz. You know, I read a book that says, one of those books that teach you how to somehow get through this difficult life. A Jew that doesn't know that he's Jewish, but one of the things he writes there, my method is liberation at all and at any cost, any price, just to be liberated from the pain and torment of this world. Reb Nosson, Reb Nachman, this was what they were about. Liberation at all costs. And there's another saying we all know. What's the definition of madness? Doing something constantly and expecting a different outcome. I've been a zombie most of my life, and many of us have been zombies. We're an autopilot. You can't expect to have a different outcome. Reb Nachman teaches us an entire new message, but it's really the message of ancient times. It's really the way of our forefathers. It's just he brought it down with a newness and a freshness and a scotchness to be able to penetrate every heart. Tzaddikim took it upon himself to rectify this world, and at Tzaddik Emes, and especially the Tzaddik Yisod Olam, his mission is, in order to get us redeemed, to bring everybody to their rectification, to heal everybody, whether you want to come on board or not. The Tzaddik's job, he's going to do this for Hashem, for the world, for humanity, to bring the tikkun, is to rectify every single person. And therefore, he's considered the Shliach Tzibur. The Shliach Tzibur is an emissary from the Tzibur. You cannot possibly be a Shliach Tzibur if you don't like parts of the Shorish, the parts of the Neshamas of Yisrael. You have to be a tzaddik, we learned this in the Torah, that has the Shorish Nishmas Yisrael, on which all of our Neshamas are rooted in, and he takes upon himself to bring everybody to where they need to go. So, about Reb Nosson a little bit. Reb Nosson, I don't know where the Rebbe ends and where Reb Nosson begins. They're both mamish the same thing. Such bittul, such devotion, such dveikus. Reb Nosson was born, I believe, in the year 1780, and he got to know the Rebbe in the year 1802. The Rebbe passed away in 1810. He knew the Rebbe all of 8 years. He went all in, 2,000,000%, as our Rebbe of Sichas Haverim USA, Amagashir of Nachman Fried, would always tell me, slowly, you gotta go all in. You gotta go in 1,000,000%. And that's what Reb Nosson did. Reb Nosson was just like us. He had all the kashas that we all have. What a Hasidim. I'm a Misnagid. My father's a Misnagid. My father-in-law's a Misnagid. My father's a businessman. What do you talk like? This is all foreign to me. Each and every one of us have that same question. The beauty about it is that we have a Reb Nosson. If you see Emes, he's such a ish Emes. You read his letters, you see his prayers. It has nothing to do with Reb Nosson. He's on a mission, he found truth, and he's going to let the world know of it. Avraham Avinu was the same way, and he got a few billion people today in the globe to have a monotheistic religion. Reb Nosson was the same way. Reb Nosson found the Rebbe through. He was searching. The first thing is Reb Nosson wasn't afraid to engage with his friends. There are some people that are shut off completely, and in the Jewish history, we saw truth many times before our eyes, but we ignored it or we countered it. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu was opposed by Klal Yisrael. They all complained to him. He wasn't doing the right thing. The Shvatim had a problem with Yosef HaTzadik. Sometimes there's truth, but you can't accept it. Reb Nosson wasn't opposed to having a conversation. And that's one of the first things a person needs if they want to search, they want to change something. You have to be able to listen. You have to be open-minded. He was completely he wasn't affiliated. He had nothing to do with Hasidim. He was actually a tremendous lamdan, a scholar. He was actually a dayan on a Besdin, I believe. But something was missing in him. Something was lacking. And he felt it. And he wanted to change. He really wanted to change. And he used to speak to his friends. And finally, they broke through, and the Rebbe happened to move a few miles away from his house. I think it's 10 miles maybe. He was living in Nemerov, Reb Nosson, and the Rebbe moved to Breslov. It was a 3-hour ride by horse. And once he met the Rebbe, it changed his entire life. So I'm saying you don't need that much when you sense truth. And when you're looking for truth, and you can be a doiver emes bilvava, which is so hard, right? The Rebbe says sometimes a person can go through life without ever uttering a true word, not to himself, not to Hashem, absolute emes. Reb Nosson was a tremendous ish emes, and that's why you could believe him. It's very hard to follow somebody that has ulterior motives, but when you sense that a person is absolutely searching for the truth, about the truth, and willing to sacrifice everything for the truth, you can follow a person like that. So he was a trailblazer for all of us to get us closer to the Rebbe, and Hashem should help. We shall learn from him. His letters on Achaya, anybody that opens them, you can find yourself in his works, his letters, his davening. So Hashem should help. He should be a Midas Yosef for us. He should guide us in the right way. Him and the Rebbe and all the tzaddikim should be us metaken, so we can herald in the days of Mashiach B'meiru B'yameinu. Amen. I would like to call upon the Chashav, the guest, of Yakov Klein, to say a few words. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence.
To say it's an honor, a privilege, it's an understatement. To be in the presence, first and foremost, of a veteran, Mamshech Derech of Nosson. There's very few other ways to describe it. A person who, as was mentioned, devoted his entire life in the Mesiras Nefesh to spreading this arm to all of us, whether directly, indirectly, many of us, most of us, all of us, directly. We owe tremendous, tremendous hakar satayv to our Klein Kramer. Mamish. The Pshitas doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk, Mamish. It's a big, big privilege, schus, almost an embarrassment for me to open my mouth. It's a schus for all of us. And it's a schus to be in the presence of Mevakshei Hashem. It's a schus to be in the presence of those who feel very deeply as if Yiddishkeit and Avodas Hashem, it's a journey. And we're on that path, and we're all trying to hold on with every last shred of strength that we have at the end of time, to hold each other up, to hold ourselves together. It's a big schus. So thank you so, so much for having me. When we have nothing else to hold on to at the very, very, very end, we need to remind ourselves what we say Monday, Thursday. Ubechol zois shimcha lo shachachnu. After everything that we've been through, personally, collectively, ubechol zois shimcha lo shachachnu. However we look, whatever we're involved with, ubechol zois shimcha lo shachachnu. We haven't forgotten you, Rebbeinu Shalom. Sometimes we're close, sometimes we feel that we're far. Forgotten you we haven't. It's the strongest chizuk, it's the strongest advocacy, defense, on our behalf to say, okay, it's 2021. We might look the way that we look. We stumble sometimes and we fall. And we crawl sometimes and we claw at the earth to try to move forward on this journey. And we're not complacent. We're looking for something more. I want to tell you a story. Rebbe Malach was getting over this hasaga, this hargasha, to his Hasidim, down through the Dairis, the Rishner. The Heilige Rishner used to tell the Hasidim around him that he was Mekabel from his Rabbeim, that Al Sham HaKadosh, when there was a decree, when there was a gezerah, the Baal Shem HaKadosh used to go to a certain place in the forest, and he used to light a special candle, a special ner, of course with the most exalted intentions, and he used to say a special tefillah, and the decree would be Mizbah. The Maggid is rich, told his Hasidim, we no longer know how to light the flame. We no longer know how to kindle this candle. But we remember the place, and we remember the tefillah, and that would be enough for the Maggid. Moshe Lev Sassover in his generation would say that when there was a gezerah that needed to be nullified, he would say, we no longer know how to kindle the flame. And we no longer know the tefillah, but we know the place in the forest, let's just go and sit there. And that would be enough. And then generations later, the Rishner said that in our time, he said we no longer remember the place. We no longer remember how to light the candle, and we no longer remember the tefillah. but we remember the story. And let that be sufficient. And it was. These words of B'chol Zoi Shimcha Lo Shachach are very, very deep. Very deep. Spend a long time talking each and every word. It's not just simple as it sounds. B'chol Zoi, we haven't forgotten, B'chol Zoi Shimcha. Very, very deep. Let's take a look at some of the words here. Based on Reb Nosson Lukut Yalachas. Reb Nosson says that the concept of shame, the concept of a name, is connected to the concept of zikaron, of memory. This is very deep, but I'm going to the whole thing now. Very simply, but it is a deep idea. So let's try to focus. Siyata D'Shmaya. Reb Nosson says that the concept of shame is connected to the sphere of Malchus, which from our perspective we can say the created world around us, the world that we live in, a very simple level, the created world that we experience, that we're supposed to perceive as being the Malchus, the Kedusha, the Malchus, the kingship, the kingdom of the Rebbeinu Shalom, to see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to feel His presence, Malchus. Baruch Shem, the concept of shame, kavod, malchus. Shame and malchus are connected one with the other. We make a bracha of shame or malchus. Shame and malchus are connected. Look, we say the psukim, l'shakin shemoi shama. The Shekhinah is connected to malchus, the indwelling presence of God that we can perceive throughout the created world in our lives. L'shakin shemoi shama. The Shekhinah, l'shakin, is connected. There's malchus is connected to the concept of shame. What's the connection between a name and this idea of Malchus? Says Reb Nosson that the concept of shame, the concept of name, is connected to zikaron, to memory. Why is that? Because the idea of a name is very, very deep. Because when a person refers to some person, somebody else, or something by the name of that thing, essentially what he intends to do is to conjure up a memory in the mind of the person that he's communicating with of that thing. So I'm trying to speak to a person, for example, about a table. I can say the name of this thing, it's called table, and I'm relying on the person's memory and experience of this concept of a table so that I don't need to explain to the person. I'm talking about a piece of wood or some other material with four legs upon which you place things. I can say table. And the table conjures up the memory that that person already has within his mind. If you think very deeply, it's a deep lesson. Most of communication happens not through our articulation, our speech, but in the mind of the other person. That's a very, very big responsibility to know exactly what we're conjuring up. Words are a funny thing. In any good debate, you have to define your terms, right? What do I mean when I say this idea? What does it mean to you? Because otherwise I'm not speaking about the same thing at all. This is very deep in communication. Shame is connected to zikaron. It conjures up a memory. Shame is connected to malchus. Like we said, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchusa. Now what does malchus, the created world, have to do with shame, have to do with zikaron, with memory? Says Reb Nosson. The whole purpose of the neshama's descent into the world, you and I are sitting here, we're taking for granted. Yeah, human beings, Jews, Yidden, Breslovers, Yidden. No, it's not. It's a pella pili plane. Umafli lasis, the neshama nugu. It's just a kli. We're souls sitting here. And why are we here? Says Reb Nosson. Because the neshama and shamayim has a clear perception of Elokus, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a clear perception of godliness. And everything that godliness contains within itself. Emes, chesed, morality on the deepest level, balance, health, everything good, everything holy. And we're sent down to this world to engage with every single aspect of life in such a way that we perceive it as being shame. L'shakin shemai shama. That everything in life is supposed to conjure up a memory. It's supposed to conjure up and to remind us, like a person, he remembers a melody from years ago. And he can't quite grasp every single tiny note, but he remembers what he remembers. He doesn't remember the prayer, the tefillah. He doesn't remember how to light the candle or the place in the forest, but he remembers the story, and that's sufficient. Some hint of something that we feel within ourselves when we encounter all of life, another human being. What is that happens? What is the infinity that becomes captured within moments between a husband and wife, between parents and children? It's a memory. It's a memory of that transcendent experience. When we're able to contact godliness in fleeting moments that are no longer fleeting, in insignificant encounters that are no longer insignificant. The zikaron of what it is to live a conscious life, and to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to be aware that we're essentially neshamas, and to allow those neshamas to echo with the reverberation of that zikaron, of that memory. I want to read to you, with your permission, a short, tiny Torah in the Likutei Moharan, tiny Kamus, the Eichus Infinite, about memory. And the tzaddik says like this: Tzarech liyos tameh b'simcha l'avod Hashem b'simcha. Rabbi Nachman tells us, our stereotypical Breslov line, you can't find, what was the good one? Tzarech liyos tameh b'simcha. That's what it's all about. The serve of HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha is a chiddush to many people. It's like, but it's not super intense and super anxious. It's not for real, Yiddishkeit should be sweet, it should be delicious. To serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with simcha. And sometimes we feel as if we're grasping at straws, and the memory isn't so clear, and the signal is not so powerful, and we fall. Says the Rebbe, an incredible chizik, an incredibly deep message and idea. That a person needs to strengthen his or herself with the memory of previous times, when things were clearer, when things were more lichtig. He gives a mashal, he says, well, it's not a person can see so well. So he walks with another individual, sometimes a guide dog. A person that's not blind. And we trust in that other individual, we trust their perceptibility, and we walk with them, even if we can't see. Even if such a person can't see. Place is a person who can see, relies on his cane. Something else, an external vehicle for vision. Even though he doesn't see at all. Mikol shekain, says the Rebbe, simple cheshbon, a calculation. Mikol shekain sheroi leilich achar atzmai. If this person is willing to rely on somebody else's perception, shouldn't we rely on our own perception? Even if it's not our clarity in the moment. But there was a time when things were clearer, but now you're any smarter? Now it's a time of moichin dekatness. Now it's a time when we're pigeonholed into seeing tunnel vision, just a moment in front of us in the negative circumstances, and we feel awash with a deluge of frustrations and difficulties and challenges. Now's the time to rely on an earlier version of your very self that had that clarity, that was clear. That was clear. But the signal was clear. A time when we were able to remember. A time when everything that we encountered in life reminded us of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's shame. That the person had inspiration, that the person felt connected, that the person felt clear. There's meaning to life, there's value to our actions. The Kadosh Baruch Hu cares about us. We're in a relationship with Him that's worth building, that's eternal. We're part of a story, not just little individuals. Each and every one of us were sparks of the same torch and drops of the same ocean. 2,000 years of a mission that you and I are going to bring to the finish line. And we have to feel that sense of mission. To rely on that clarity. To tap back into it and say, right now, I'm not thinking straight. Right now, my mind is not clear. Let me rely on those shining, exalted moments when I was standing in Kippur Shemana Esrei. For each and every person, find that happy place. You know, like they say, find that place of simcha mitis. A tish, a fabrengen, a yahrzeit suda, a moment where things are clear, are pashut once more, simple, not convoluted or sophisticated, simple. Uv'chol zois, shimcha lo yishachachnu. After everything that a human being goes through, after everything that the Jew experiences, in our journey, this journey that we're on, in this journey that we're trying to move forward, and we're trying to grow, and we're trying to reveal HaKadosh Baruch Hu in each and every detail of our lives, and battle against Ashelia, and battle against the illusion and the delusion that this world is a Metzias in and of itself. And it's hard, and it's difficult, and it's a struggle, it's a challenge. Some days are easier than others, but it's a challenge. If I'm attached and connected to the concept of Shimcha, if I'm connected to the concept of shame, to realize that every single thing is the name of a Kadosh Baruch Hu Kiviyachal. That the whole Olam Asiyah, the whole Malchus, this whole world, with everything that it contains, everything in the physical world, it's part of the last K of Yud K Vav K. It's literally part of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name. Kadosh, 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 Mamash, to find holiness in life. Shimcha, lo shachachnu. That brings us back to the Zikaron. That brings us back to the inyan of memory. One of the most well-known Breslover Torahs is Reish Pei Beis 282. Torah Bazamra, right? One of the most famous ideas from Menachem. The doctrine, the concept of Nekuda Taiva. To find a little point of good. But there's one word that Chevra are always giving over this teaching and spreading it and sharing it. But there's one word that oftentimes gets lost, and I personally feel that it's mamish perhaps the most important word in the whole entirety of the Torah. Rabbi Nachman again and again and again says, to find the nekudas Torahs sheyesh bi adayim. Nekudas Torahs sheyesh bi adayim. That in a moment that a person is blind, to dig deep and to find the Nekuda Tova, but not just Stam Nekuda Tova, Nekuda Tova sheyesh bi adayim. What's this concept of adayim? The concept of adayim, Chevra, is this element of Zikaron. This element of digging deep and finding that place of pashtus, finding that place of clarity within ourselves that we contain. And it takes some shutting off of some of the complex systems that we ordinarily function out of. The pasuk says, "Harfu udu'u." Just desist. It's nothing that we need to do. It's something that we need not to do. To move back from complexity. To close off some of that noise. Rabbi Nachman says, shut off the phone and disconnect from the chevra. Go out, go out, go out. In Muncie, there's ample space, right? Many times you get lost in your backyard here, some of the chevra, you know? There's ample space. You go out. Spend time alone. Tap into that place of Zikaron. The Nekudas Tova sheyesh bi adayim. And perhaps we can suggest that that's the point of the Nekuda Tova. Is if I can find the adayim within myself. If I can find that place, adayim means that is still there. Meaning to say I'm tapping into a place, an earlier iteration of simplicity, of sweetness, of depth, The Nekuda Tova, sheyesh bi adayi. That's the Nekuda Tova. Is that adayi. I still have clarity. After everything I've been through, Shimcha, Loi Shachach. I'm connected to your name, Ribbon Shalom. I'm trying to find you. I'm trying to feel you. From behind the concealment. And it's not clear. It's not articulated clearly. It's on a paper. You can read it off. It's a heritage. It's a heritage. I'm going to close with a story that a lot of us are familiar with as well. A mashal from the Rebbe, it's so deep. This itself has endless meaning to every word of the Rebbe, every word of the Tzaddik. It's the story of the tainted grain. And the story goes, a short little story. The story goes that there was a stargazer, a person that was able to see in the stars what would be on some level. And he was very, very close with the king. He was also a minister. And he came to the king and he said that according to my calculations, the grain of this coming year's crop is going to be completely tainted with some terrible, terrible plague that won't only destroy the crop will be there, but it will make every single person who eats it insane, mad, insane. So he says, what should we do? This is all the food that we have. If we don't eat it, if we don't eat it, there's so much depth here. And we don't have so much time. There's so much depth in this itself. I'm sure you know. Think about every nakuda of this story. If we don't eat it, then everybody's going to eat the grain and become mad. We'll be the normal ones in actuality, but klape them in relation to the way that they see the world, we'll be the crazy ones. But if we eat it, we're giving up our sanity. It says Rabbi Nachman, the king came up with an idea, with a strategy. And the king says, we're going to eat the grain. We'll become mad like everybody else. But you and I will make marks on our forehead. So that when we look at each other, at least we'll know that we're a little crazy. At least we'll know. Historically, people thought that Breslovers were a little crazy, right? Crazy in a holy way, in the holiest way. I bless you and me that in all the experiences of the Uvechol, when we feel as if it's the good days and we have everything, and we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'simcha because we almost feel it, and we're picking up on the perception, and we're picking up on the zikaron, and everything that we see, and every fruit that we hold in our hand, we make a bracha on, and every person that we see, and the shining, infinite moment, sitting on the dining room floor, playing with our kids, and spending time with our spouses, and taking a walk in the park, and being mizboinim, like Rabbi Nachman advises us to look at the seichel sheish b'chol davar, that everything is shining, everything has meaning. The ubechols, and also the zois, where we're sitting on the floor, this time with nobody, in an empty room, shattered, broken, looking at the remnants, the tiny little ashes that are still burning, still a little orange, and saying, zois, and this is all I have left. This is all I have left. Then when we look at each other, and when we spend time among the Mavakshei Hashem, we should have this glowing shine on our foreheads to let us know we're a little bit crazy in the holiest way. To shine into one another the essential sanity, to bring us back to a zikaron of a remembrance of a saner time, to bring us back to a remembrance of an ish emes, of a tzaddik emes, of a person who lived life in a way of sanity, in a way of perceptibility, in a way that every single moment was clear, that it was lived in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Hashem was real, and that everything in Yiddishkeit was a means toward the end of Kirvas Sadakim Litoy. And not just in Yiddishkeit, everything outside of this measures and this Knesset, all of life was Yiddishkeit, everything at work, and at home, Shabbos and Yom Tov, and the weekdays. To remind us of an Ish Emes, Rabbi Nachman Breslov, Schusir Galenu, Rabbeinu HaKadosh V'Anoyer, the Ish Pele, and his Talmud, Rabbi Nosson Schusir Galenu, so that we too can have this memory of the Nekudas Tova Sheyesh Biyadai, of a clearer time that even though it's Zeus right now, but Uvachol, we have it all. We have it within us. Every single moment along the journey in the story of the Lost Princess, the deserts, fields, and forests, different stages of the growth process, we have it all. Ashreinu Matoy Chalkeinu, what we have and what we know. In our best moments and in our worst moments. Uvachol. And the name of the Zeus becomes filled with the Uvachol. And we have each other. And we have the tzaddik. And we have the Amshi Emes that led the way before us. Rabbi Nachman said, Ma yesh lachem lid'o. What do you have to worry about? Shani hoylech lefneichem. We have somebody to walk after, to follow, with confidence and strength and clarity. Yesh ani lismoich. Shimcha lo shechachnu. To tap into Zikaron. To tap into that eternal memory. And to be mamshich Rabbi Nosson's derech. Rabbi Nosson fought. Rabbi Nosson, he didn't fight other people. The way that he fought other people, Kiviyachal, was just by being so sincere and so authentic and so real that he won them over the Mela. Rabbi Nosson fought to make sure that we wouldn't forget. He was the Talmud. Rabbi Nachman said, "Well, Talmidim shemei Talmidim shemei Talmidim." It's our mandate, Chevra, to take what we have, to take that mark on the forehead, and take a little marker, a holy marker, and walk around making marks on other people's heads. Because the tikkun prati of each individual, Be'ez Hashem, will lead to the tikkun and the geula klali, the mir b'yameinu amin ba'amin.